All right, now we're going to go all the way out west to Sandy, Utah. Let's hear about Cameron and some clumping tall fescue.
Hey, Alan Hain, it's Cameron Wilson. I'm from Sandy, Utah. So I've kind of got a quick question for you. So I kind of talked with Connor Ward. I was at Bear Lake, Utah last weekend, and he told me that if I plan to kill off my lawn, best weekend to do it would be have the seed down August 10th. And so I've really been thinking about that. But I also heard you say you don't know if killing off the whole lawn is going to be the best option. So I kind of want to hear your opinion. So the reason for wanting to kill it off is I've got a lot of clumping fescue. I bought this house about 2 years ago, and it was never taken care of. I actually had a neighbor tell me that their house hasn't looked this good in about 30 years. She's lived there 37. So it's been neglected for a lot of years, and those fescue clumps has really expanded, and they're just big clumps in the middle of my, it's a mix of rye and Kentucky bluegrass. So my first option would be just try to scar it up and dethatch and do a split seed. Do that about August 10th. My next option would be kill it off completely and then start over with seeding. And the last option would be my lawn is super unlevel, so I'm going to need to do a lot of leveling. What do you think about getting a sod cutter, removing all the sod, re-leveling the lawn completely, and then going with new seed from there? I really want to know what the best option would be. I'm really just kind of throwing mud at the wall and seeing what's sticking. So your channel has helped a lot. I've gone from just throwing stuff down to calculating, and my lawn's actually looking really good this year. And so that's what makes me want to try to push it to look even better. So thanks again for everything you do, and I hope to hear back.
So Cameron, I don't know, maybe Utah has an accent, because when I first listened to this call, it sounds a lot like Connor. So I guess Utah has an accent. I can pick it up. Maybe some of you can tell me if I'm the only one. And that's not a cut on you guys. You guys know I like accents. I like to pick up on regional accents. I think it's kind of interesting. It's one of the things that I think makes our country great. But anyway, with that, this is a good strategy to think through. And Cameron, thank you very much for this call. And you have obviously thought this out ahead of time. So, let's go through some of that as well. So your first option, and by the way, stopping by and seeing Connor, yeah, he definitely is all about that burn down strategy. He finds like one little 2x2 patch of Poa annua in his lawn, and he's going to burn the whole place down. But, and that's fine. I don't want to be the anti-burn down your lawn guy, even though I'm kind of talking that way recently. But I just want us to always think before we do that. I want us to think through the strategy, which is exactly what Cameron's doing, throwing that mud up against the wall and seeing what sticks. So, Cameron, here's what's going to stick with me. I'm going to give you a completely different not a completely different option. I'm going to give you something you hadn't thought about, and I'm going to tell you why. And then, just like it's been happening, I want you to call back in once you decide what you're going to do and let me know. So I'm going to narrow this one down pretty quick. And the one thing that I keyed on that you said, Cameron, is that you have to level your lawn, that you've got major areas that are unlevel. Now, I want to just say one thing here. Lawns don't need to be level. Lawns actually need to be flat. And they don't actually need to be flat. They actually need to be consistently sloped. And when I say that, they need to be consistently sloped away from your house. If your lawn was actually dead set level, you could possibly have water get back into your house when it rains. So what you want is the grass to the lawn or the turf or really the grade. You want the grade to slope consistently away from your house. And so I want you to think more flat, not level. Now, you probably don't want it exactly flat either. It will be a consistent slope that leads away from your house. And when I say that, you need to be able to mow it without scalping anything. Now, if you're going to mow with a real mower at 5/8 inch, you can't have as steep of a consistent slope or hilly as you could if you're mowing with a rotary mower at 4 inches. In other words, the rotary mower at 4 inches has a lot more forgiveness in how flat the lawn is as opposed to when you're real mowing. So that's the thing you want to think about. Now, because you went and saw Connor out there, I'm assuming you're probably going to start real mowing, which is cool. You just need to think about that when it comes to it. You definitely don't want level. You want as flat as you can, but definitely keep that thing graded away from your house. However, that changes the strategy completely, because if you have existing turf there and you have major bumps, ruts, low spots, whatever you want to call it, if you need to do that, then you're going to have to start over. You're going to have to burn down and start over. You can't do a major leveling and correct fescue clump problem, especially if it's a neglected one like this where it's really bad. You can't fix both of those with some existing stuff there. You got to get rid of all of it. So the answer is to scrape everything off. And I don't even recommend that you use a sod cutter. I recommend you use a bobcat. I recommend you come in with a bobcat, scrape everything off, get a box blade and regrade. Put a fresh finish grade on that lawn. This is your opportunity to go ahead and start over and do it right from the very beginning. So go ahead. And by the way, when you do this, you don't need to use any glyphosate here. You can just come in with the bobcat, scrape it off, get the box blade, get a nice fresh finish grade on there, hand rake out the rest, and then you're good to go. Now, before I tell you what to do from there, I want to talk about why I don't recommend this burning down all the time with glyphosate. The reason I don't recommend burning down the lawn is because when you kill all of the green and living things in the lawn, you upset the balance in the soil. Because believe it or not, the roots in the soil, whether it's weeds or whether it's turf grass, have a synergistic or a symbiotic relationship with organisms in the soil. And when you kill those roots, you're taking away a very important, vital part of the soil. The other thing that you're doing then is you're killing those organisms, not just with the glyphosate itself, which, I mean, I don't necessarily know how many microbes or fungi or earthworms are killed with glyphosate. I don't know that, and that's not what I'm saying. But I do know that when there's no more plant material there and the sun is baking down on that soil straight, that's going to kill soil organisms. It's going to heat them up too much. The one thing that plants in a lawn do, whether it's grass or weeds, is they shade it, they keep things cool, they also retain moisture, and so all the moisture will get sucked out, and that's going to kill organisms in the soil. So burning down a lawn does that. It harms the balance that's in the soil. Now, maybe you don't like the balance that's there. Maybe that's why you do have certain weeds. That's why certain things have taken over. You don't like the balance that's there. Well, you can change the balance, but it's hard to bring things back to life. Does that make sense? So that's what burning down does, is it destroys the soil. And that means that not only do you have to grow new grass there, you also have to hope that the microbe populations come back, which they will. I don't want you to think they won't. It's not doom and gloom, but it's just another thing that has to happen. Now, the other thing that can happen then when you open the soil up like that, when you kill all the green stuff off and you allow the soil to dry out, also what happens is if you get a rain, it may allow the rain to get deeper, the water to move deeper. It will change the oxygen content of the soil. All these things can awaken things that should better be left deep and alone and in the dark and not awakened. It can awaken more seeds. Not only more clumping tall fescue seeds that have probably laid dormant and will continue to lay dormant. When you open that lawn up, a lot of those will come up, but who knows what else is under there. If this has been a neglected lawn for many, many years, 30 years, according to what you're getting with your anecdotal evidence from your neighbor, who knows what's under there that is laying dormant, that has kind of found this position where it's not going to get the right temperatures, it's not going to get the right moisture. You know, that's the whole thing. Just because we talk about how to grow grass seed and the things you need with grass seed, well, every seed needs a certain condition to grow. And sometimes seeds of things that we don't want, or weed seeds or whatever, they can get deep down in the soil where they're just not going to grow. But when you open things up and more oxygen gets down, it'll waken those things up, and you can actually cause yourself more problems. So that's why I don't like the idea of burn down. But back to you, Cameron, like I said earlier, you're going to have to burn down. Actually, not burn down. You're going to have to start over. So you're going to have to scrape everything up and regrade. And that also can awaken things from the deep. So I just wanted to go through that real quick and say that for those of you considering burning down your lawn that don't have to do a complete regrade like Cameron does, please reconsider the burning down of the lawn. But going back to Cameron's question, he's going to have to start over. I recommend that you use that box blade. Like I said, you get that new grade on there. Now, because you will be wakening things up, though, in that case, physically, because you're going to be doing a lot of physical activity up there, I recommend that you don't do seeding and that you sod. Now, the reason that I'm going to recommend sod is because sod has the ability to blot out the sun. So you got to go in and regrade and stir all this stuff up and redo it. But the one thing that all of that stuff needs in order to regrow, or those seeds that you may have waken up to grow, is they need sunlight. And if you put down sod immediately, you're blotting the sun out. Whereas when you burn the lawn down with glyphosate and then you put seed in there and you water a lot, the lawn is still wide open. Everything is still wide open for a long time, and the sun can still penetrate way down deep, and those uglies can come up. But if you sod on top, you're blotting out the sun, and that is one of the big reasons you sod. You're also going to have a nice dense turf mat right there, which can immediately help compete with anything that does happen to try and germinate. The third reason I like sod here is that sod does come with some soil already as a part of it. It's not a lot, but there's some soil there, and that soil contains good microbes from the farm that you bought it from. And most sod guys that I've talked to, most growers, are real soil scientists. You want to talk about somebody that knows how to use humic acid and microbes and bugs in a jug, and most of them have their own kind of super secret sauce mix that they use in their fields to make sure they get optimum growth. Because, by the way, if there's anybody that knows how to grow turf of whatever kind it is, it's sod growers. So when you buy that sod from that sod farm, you're getting some of that goodness, some of that secret sauce that they have included to make that sod so healthy, and that's going to go into your lawn, and that's going to help any microbes that are there to continue to expand and grow. Because again, you did not have the lawn opened up for the long time. And this is the last piece of it. When you do this strategy with the Bobcat, the lawn is actually not opened up for very long, maybe a day, because you're coming in, scraping, regrading, and sodding. So you don't have a lot of time for all of these things that I talked about previously to kind of come to fruition. Boy, I got to say a shout out to Ben the Lawn Guardian. He breaks up these podcasts for me. This segment is going to be impossible for him to break up into small segments. So either way, he'll figure it out. But that's what I recommend for you, Cameron, is you spend that extra money. Now, a lot of people will ask, Alan, sod, isn't that expensive? Yes, sod can be expensive, in a way, shape, or fashion. So let's talk through it. Let's just think through the cost of sod here real quick. Now, sod is I don't know what the price is across the country, varied by grass types, varied where you live, how far you're away from sod farms. I mean, I have sod farms within a 10-minute drive of me. So, and this is warm season turf down here. I think the number one crop in Florida is actually sod. I think it used to be citrus, but I think it's sod now. We have a lot of cattle here too. That's not a crop, but definitely sod, I think, is definitely in the top 2 or 3 crops grown in Florida. So because of that, sod prices here might be cheaper than up north. But for me, I can get high quality St. Augustine grass for $350 per pallet delivered, and each pallet will cover 400 square feet. So let's do a little bit of math there. If you have a 5,000 square foot lawn, Cameron, then that means that you would need 12 and a half pallets to cover that. However, you want to order, 25 to 30% more for cuts and mistakes, assuming you don't have a perfect square or rectangle out there. So let's say you need to order 15 pallets of sod at $350 each delivered. That's going to cost you $5,250. Now, is that expensive? Yes, $5,000 is a big nut. However, let's weigh it out. Is $5,000 to do it right now, to have instant lawn that blots out the sun and only leaves your lawn open for a matter of hours rather than weeks on end, like burning down with glyphosate and seeding? Is it worth it to stop the future problems that you could have because of the burn down and seed and the lawn being opened all these weeks? Is it worth it to pay more now to suffer less later? That is what you want to kind of way out there. Now, is it a guarantee that if you sod, you're not going to get weeds, you're not going to have clumping tall fescue come back? No, it's not a guarantee, but I can tell you that for sure, blotting out the sun and not keeping the lawn open for that long amount of time is going to reduce the amount that does come back. And what does, hopefully, you can stay on top of it and you can hand pull it much, much sooner because you're not going to let it go neglected for 30 years.